Joel Klatt, seen them all. He joins us now live, Fox Sports college football analyst. Also, by the way, an NFL draft analyst.
Yeah, there we go. I love it.
So
Never too early.
Let's address this, is that the draft is about traits.
Okay.
I mean, Mahomes didn't have a winning record. I'm pushing back a little, but I don't even want to get into the arguments. The top 2 picks are going to be the 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say.
And I think even though Caleb's been dinged a little, maybe he's not Elway or Luck as a prospect, I still contend he's the number 1 pick.
Well, he just does so many things well, and we haven't we've never seen a quarterback that is excellent in what I would categorize as all 5 categories. So he can control the game from the pocket, and he can control the game with his mind. Those are 2. He's got the requisite arm, clearly.
Yeah.
He can create outside of the pocket when things break down, and he's a threat with his legs. He's the only guy that I have covered in college football that is excellent in all 5 categories.
Wow.
I mean, you go back to college, Pat Mahomes, there were serious questions about Pat Mahomes coming out of Texas Tech, namely that no one from that offense had succeeded before.
That's right.
I've told you the Gruden story, right?
No.
So it's the Philadelphia draft, and I'm there, and I go down in the morning and just to grab some breakfast, and Gruden's sitting in the corner, and he's like, hey, Klatt. I had never met him. He just yells out, hey, Klatt.
That's how he
and
sounds.
I'm like looking behind me. I'm like, is he talking about me? And he's like, come on over here, man. And I'm like, okay. So I sit down with Gruden, and he's like, hey, what do you think about Mahomes? And I'm like, and so I just rattle off, well, the offense, this, and I don't know, and we've never seen anybody from this offense succeed, and the air raid, and I just don't know. This was my take back then. What a ridiculous take in hindsight, but that's my take. And I say it to him, and he's eating scrambled eggs, and he looks at me, and he raises an eyebrow, and he's like, all of us that ever touched Favre, that's what we see. And he goes, Andy's taking him tonight. And this Caleb Williams draft, he's the first one since Mahomes that you can project those style of traits into the league, and we see how those traits now not only accentuate your team and your roster, but excel at the top end of the sport. So listen, like Caleb for me is still the best quarterback in the draft because of all of those things.
Yeah, that's a great story, by the way. Appreciate that.
Yeah, but you bet.
All right. So I watched the we'll get to Michigan in a second because that's the game of the weekend. I watched the Texas game.
Yeah.
And it would be very easy. It was classic Sark. I love so much about it. And then they're kicking the ball and turning the ball over. And I'm like, Sark. And so today I feel like I'm right on Sark.
Okay. About what?
Well, I've been pro Sark forever.
Sure.
Okay. And then I watch him almost butcher that thing, and I'm like, God, it drives. I've never loved a coach, and it simultaneously drove me nuts. You did the game. What do you make of Texas Sark?
Sure.
Is it just possible that Sark is Sark, no matter how great his personnel is, and he's going to win 10 games from this point forward at Texas because the dude can recruit and coach?
Well, he's never won 10 games as a head coach.
Oh, he hasn't?
No.
Wow.
Not in his career. Not saying that he's not going to this year. Here's what I would say is that game was not about Sark or mismanagement or anything along those lines. It was about a backup quarterback that the game goes too fast for him. And once he's out of rhythm, it's over. There's no getting it back. Texas was the better team at the line of scrimmage. They were, in a lot of ways, well coached, got turnovers. They did everything right. They were attacking early, but as soon as Malik Murphy lost his confidence, the offense lost its way. And a lot of that is due to Kansas State, by the way. Kansas State is still a really good team.
They got a lot of returning starters.
Yeah, and Chris Kleiman is still a very good coach. But to me, it was about a quarterback. So if Quinn Ewers can get back and become healthy, they are Texas still. And that alleviates a lot of this. I don't think it was mismanagement from Sark that allowed Kansas State to get back in that game. I think it's looking out there, and all of a sudden your quarterback is throwing the football to them, and you're turning the ball over, and then you just got to hang on at the end. The one thing I do know about the top end of this sport is that if you can't play at the line of scrimmage, you're not going to win. at the top end, and they can play at the line of scrimmage. Their O-line is very good, and more importantly, their defensive line and the interior of their defensive line might be the best in the country. T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy are their 2 tackles inside. Can't run on them.
Can't run on them.
Ask Alabama. So that D-line is going to mask a lot of those things.
So it's interesting. I was asking J-Mac, does Michigan, unfocused, all these allegations, go out and just sort of get engulfed by the last 14 days? Or are they inspired? I have a feeling with Harbaugh, it'll be us against the world, play inspired football. It is an advantage that it's afternoon and not night. That's probably worth a field goal in your favor if you're Michigan. So J.J. McCarthy's, I think he's 21-1 since he started. And I've made this argument in defense of Harbaugh, is that when he got the San Diego quarterback, Luck, Kaepernick, and J.J. McCarthy, his teams always win. They become dominant and devastating.
Yes, and this is so okay.
So my point is, what's going to happen to them Saturday?
Yeah, the focus question. Let's talk about that first. This is a different style of distraction because the distraction is actually a question of the players. Can you do this without this advantage?
Right.
And so it is going to be a galvanizing factor, and we've seen that play out. Their last 2 games, remember, this has not just been like, oh, what's it going to be this week? I get it, these weren't great teams, but they've played Michigan State and they've played Purdue. Guess what they did to both of those teams? Exactly what they've done to everybody else, and then some. You talk with coaches around the league, this is still the best defense in the league. J.J. McCarthy is playing at the highest level in the league. This is a really, really good team, and I believe that this is going to focus them more onto the field.
Do you like McCarthy?
I love McCarthy.
Now, J-Mac literally 6 months ago said top 5-10 pick, and I thought he was nuts. Is he?
Yes, he's playing his way into that mold for sure. No one talks about this because we just think of Harbaugh and the length of time that we've seen him use the same style of football, which is ground and pound, tight ends, power, gap scheme, run the ball. Well, they're totally different and have evolved tremendously from last year even to this year. Last year, they were in the top 10 in rushing yards per carry, and they were 7th in the country in passing yards per attempt. That's flipped this year, Colin. They're a dominant passing team and just an okay running team. The deal is that J.J. McCarthy, the tight ends that they have, the versatility that those tight ends have, they're able to throw the ball with more explosiveness than most teams in college football. And McCarthy is actually playing at an incredibly elite level. It wouldn't shock me at all if he plays himself into the top 10 or that conversation, because he's doing things on the field this year that are just different, you know? And let me give you a quick example rather than just saying a generalization. Quick example. All right, so there's let's just say a concept called smash, okay? So smash is a concept where you got a flat control like a hitch and a corner route over the top. Yeah. In previous years, JJ would look at that and kind of read both of them. It's like, which one do I want to throw to? And he was indecisive. I thought he used to hold
the ball too long.
And because of that, he held the ball too long. You're exactly right. This year, he's much more decisive in that if number 1 is open, bang, he gets the ball. So if the hitch is open, boom, 1, 2, 3, ball out. If he's not, he's already read number 1, which means the corner comes down, which means the corner above him is open, right? The corner route is open. Then he gets the ball. That decisiveness allows him to play within the schematics much better. And then he's athletic enough where he can take the offense above the X's and O's. So even when the defense does everything right, he manipulates the pocket, similar to Caleb Williams, gets outside of the pocket, and all of a sudden creates a big play. And yet the defense has done everything right. So he's one of the rare players that is really efficient within the concepts of the offense and can take the offense above the X's and O's.
For the record, a couple of weeks ago, you and I on an island defending Harbaugh, and the argument I have made is that everybody is speeding on this Signs freeway. Jim's probably going a little aggressively fast, but everybody's going over the speed limit. Stories out today that Rutgers, Purdue, Ohio State, somebody was feeding somebody signals, Michigan signals, and so much of this stuff. There's a lot of people that I really respect in the industry of college football talking about it. So it was very anti-Harbaugh. Over the last 36 hours, there's been, looks like somebody else had signals against Harbaugh. Where are you with it today? Your feeling about where this thing's going?
Well, I just want to categorize. I have never defended Michigan. I have defended the process. and have been an ardent defender that Tony Petitti and the Big Ten should not circumvent the process. And the process being gather evidence, all of it, deliver the evidence to those accused, and then make a judgment afterwards. And if that process is followed, if rules were broken, then people should be punished. And I'm here to say that if rules were broken, they should be punished. And it looks like rules were broken. The hard part is that if you rush ahead of the process and you allow mob mentality to force you into action, if you're Tony Petitti, you're setting a very dangerous precedent. Because if you're not acting on facts, then all you're going to do is invite that type of mob mentality over and over and over again.
Which, by the way, college football has always struggled with.
It's struggled with.
The most fanatical fan bases. You got a plaque on the wall.
Yes.
You go to the games. It's even in the NFL, you'll bail on a team or a coach. That plaque on the wall creates a loyalty and a tribalism that is sometimes seedy. It sometimes is over the top.
I just feel like our culture can, in a lot of ways, confuse patience with apathy. And just because there hasn't been action doesn't mean those in charge are apathetic to what happened. It just means that they're trying to gather evidence. And by the way, the new news is exactly why you don't allow a mob or the angriness of the victims to force you into action. If Tony Petitti would have done something rash last week and then this news comes out, then he's got to do something rash to those people. So all of a sudden you're putting yourself in a predicament where you're having to suspend everybody. Right. And I don't think that's where he wants to be. So he needs to make sure that he's following the process, that he's got the right backing from the right presidents on the joint committee that they have and enforcement. And quite frankly, the Big Ten shouldn't want to be involved in, quote unquote, governance. That's the NCAA's job. And there's a big reason why we're in this mess to begin with.
Right.
That reason is that the NCAA has basically abdicated their responsibility to govern the sport in any sort of meaningful manner. Yeah. So what happens is when there is a victim of, let's say, sign stealing, those people want action now. So what do? They go to the one area where they think they can get that action now, which is the conference, even though it's not really within the conference's purview, in particular within the season. Now, I'm not suggesting that he shouldn't be punished or other people shouldn't be punished. All I'm saying is that the process has to run its course. Gather every bit of evidence that is available on all sides, deliver it to those accused. Let's have a little bit of due process here because, again, patience is not apathy, and I think we get it confused a lot in our culture.
Michigan at Penn State. My feeling is that young quarterback, Drew Aller for Penn State, will realize very quickly this defense has a lot of Sunday players, and he'll be limited. I don't think Penn State will move the ball with a great deal of regularity in this game. That is my take. But I think it'll be a very competitive game. J-Mac said 31-17-ish. That feels about 31-13 to me. Home teams usually
the line's only 4.5.
Well, yeah, I know, but I think Michigan's going to win comfortably.
I do think that it's interesting because we saw Penn State in a game against a really good team just a couple of weeks ago against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And let's face it, they failed.
Oh, badly.
There was no creativity on offense.
Yeah.
They couldn't run the ball. Even the late touchdown, it wasn't even as close as the score indicated. Now, their defense is very good, but what they did is they went back to the drawing board offensively, and they tried to fix some things. So, for instance, last week, early in the game, they were throwing the ball down the field, trying to soften up the defense. It allowed the run game to get going a little bit, and then Drew Aller ended up having his best game of his career.
Yeah, but that wasn't Michigan.
I understand that, but I am saying, I do think that they have, from a schematic standpoint and a game plan standpoint, understood the error of their ways in the Ohio State game, and I would expect them to be much more aggressive, in particular at home. But I do Michigan's defense is incredibly difficult to face, and I don't care whether they know, whether they don't know. It's the best defense in the conference, and so it's going to be tough sledding for Penn State.
All right, college football rankings. I don't know why anybody gets worked up. Klatt's top 10 is closer to mine, which is Michigan, Georgia, the top two teams. I think Oregon's third, not Ohio State, but Ohio State's undefeated, so I understand the college football rankings.
Yeah,
and I understand those. If you're just asking me who the best teams are, I think it's Michigan 1, Georgia 2. I'd put Oregon 3. Then I'd probably go Ohio State, Washington, Florida State. The rest of it I'm not bothered by.
Sure.
I don't think this is a great Georgia team. I think it's a good Georgia team. I think it's a great Michigan team. I will say this. I watched Washington USC.
Yeah.
We got into some discussion about this. So J.J. McCarthy was not considered like a high first-round quarterback entering the season. Not sure Bo Nix was. Now they're both there. Michael Penix, I think, was. I have watched him now 7 to 8 times closely. Yep. I watched him against USC. He's had injuries. I think he's a bigger Tua. That's what I've been told, and that's what I think is true. A big left-hander, more physical, capable of seeing over the line, standing in the pocket, taking shots. When you look at, you've seen McCarthy, Penix, Drake May, Caleb. If I said to you, give me your third, being that Caleb and Drake May are 1 and 2, are they with you?
Yes.
Okay. Who is, you've seen them all. I watched Penix, and he's my third, but there's McCarthy, there's Bo Nix, there's the kid at Florida State. If I said today you're GM.
My third now is McCarthy after the way he's played. Yeah.
Wow,
again,
look at J-Mac.
The tape doesn't lie, right? Film doesn't lie. And not that the other kids aren't really good. Penix is very good. He would have been my third, but McCarthy has kind of played himself up there because of McCarthy's
he moves well
versatility with his legs, his threat with his legs, and his creativity once the play breaks down. Penix is a wonderful passer of the football.
Yeah.
He understands leverage. He's accurate. And in that sense, I think that your comparison is accurate.
It was somebody else's that gave it to me, but I steal it occasionally.
That's fine. You know, you can steal it and use it on, it's your show.
That's right.
It's called The Herd.
It's called The Herd, not Sources Told
That's
the
right.
Herd.
It's not called Sources. I love the way that he can throw the ball downfield and still be super accurate, in particular with leverage. And that's not something that I would say Tua is great at.
Yeah.
Tua is really good on the intermediate stuff.
Yeah.
Penix can take that and take it a step further.
Yeah, he's a bigger, stronger Tua.
He's a bit of a bigger thrower, and again, he excels passing the football. And then Nix is a guy, here's what I love about Bo Nix. He's going to wind up getting taken by a team that doesn't need him right away.
Rams.
Like a Rams, and then all of a sudden we're going to look up in 3 years and be like, oh my gosh, Bo Nix is really good. He's about to start his 57th game. He's playing the best of his life. He makes great decisions quickly. He owns the entire
by the way,
field.
A word I've seen him twice live. Incredibly decisive.
Yes.
Never a pause. Goes back, looks, boom. Look, he never, if he surveys the field, once he makes his mind up, there's no pause. Very decisive guy.
What I've seen from him in his last, let's call it 15 starts of his career, which, by the way, he's played so much. Think of having an extra year of anything in your life. Like if you could go back and redo any situation in your life, wouldn't you, you would take that opportunity? This guy basically has an extra year of college football.
Now, some people see that as a negative.
No.
It's the Hendon Hooker. You're the old guy dominating Stetson Bennett. I heard that.
No.
Okay.
No. Experience at this position in particular should always be valued. I've brought this up before on this. If you look at the Super Bowl winning quarterback since Brady won his first Super Bowl, of all the guys that have won Super Bowls, their average college career is long, and they're experienced guys. In fact, what you don't want is the guys that come out after 1 year and you don't know. And it's like, well, they're really talented. Fine, but they haven't played.
It's
Nix
interesting.
has seen it.
I was telling a friend about this when USC lost this weekend. I said, you don't care because you're a USC fan. This is the best thing that's ever happened to Caleb because this is the NFL. Well, you literally are in – your defense doesn't save you because nobody can stop anybody in the NFL if you have a good quarterback and a good coach. And I'm like, would it have been great if Caleb just ran through Tulane and ran through Utah? It's like, no, this is called the NFL. You lose close games at home all the time, and you're highly emotional. And then the next day you have to watch film and get ready for the next team.
The one thing Caleb's going to have to do, and this is where he's actually regressed this year.
Where?
Is he tries to do too much.
Oh, hero ball's there.
Hero ball is there, and he can't do that at the next level. Again, why is J.J. McCarthy taking the next step? What's making Bo Nix so good? Why is Michael Penix succeeding and playing so efficient? Is because you've got to play within the offense first before you can take the offense to another level. So if you're reading out a concept and number one is open, give him the ball now.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.